All right. Well, let's go ahead and kick off, guys. Coming in for today. So today we are on week 4. Coming into week 4 here. It's Royal Life, and today, in this week, what we're talking about is what is going to be the vision for your life. Goal setting as a compass, but not a map, right? So who here has gotten into like creating like visions and like goal setting before and done that basic type of work? And who here in doing that kind of work, I saw Connie like raise her hand. Who here has done that work? You write it down and then it's gone and it's out of there. You never look at it again, right? And you're like, what a waste of time all of this goal setting stuff is for that people have us do in these leadership retreats. So I'm there right there with you. That for me, that was an experience that I had for a long period of time where I would do these one-off weekends, or I'd go to these seminars or whatever it would be, and we'd end up doing goal setting. And then, but after that, I'd be like, all right, cool. I never looked at those goals again. Really interesting to go back to actually look at those goals, because I found out that I actually did most of those goals, even though I wasn't even cognizant of the fact that I did them. So some of the teachers that I have heard too say like, well, actually, it's just the act of even writing down your goals even once is enough to clarify your mind around how to drive it that direction. And what I found was in working with the higher, more effective people, the higher net worth people, the people that were stronger at builders, both in business and finance, but as well as issues in their life, that they used a little bit different of an approach. And that little bit different of an approach is what we're going to be talking about here today. And that's also baked into the Royal Life Planner. So hopefully everybody had got the Royal Life Planners while they were free during our initial month-long kickoff. Gina's let me know that now more people are requesting them to be able to purchase them from watching the replays of the videos that we're all here creating together. So it's really exciting, guys, because the work and the content that you're building here with us together as a team is actually helping reach and influence other people that are interested in the work that you're currently doing. And so you're there setting the foundations and modeling for everybody that is looking to join the group before is about like, what is the culture of this group? What are these people really about? And so I want to just take a moment to say thank you for coming each week to be able to be a part of what we're all here creating together, and to let you know that it's actually having impacts that are happening offline here. So the impacts that you're seeing here, you'll end up seeing those impacts 3 months, 6 months from now into it, but it's already starting to take hold on just things that you can't see yet. So thank you for making the investment into coming into the group. And I want to let you know that it's hugely important, hugely powerful that you're here with that. So before we go into our breakout groups here for today, Gina was going to kick us off with some questions, and then we were going to move directly in the group. So Gina, I'll pass the mic over to you.
Awesome. So one of the things that we're going to start doing is, as we kind of have you work through the exercises that we give you each week, instead of asking you about your superpowers and all that stuff, which we may pepper in every now and again, we're going to have you share based off whatever exercise you did the week before. So last week, we talked all about core values and their importance of not only choosing your core values, but also owning them and living in them. So today we want you to, in your breakout groups, to share what your top 3 core values are. And if for whatever reason you didn't get to finish the exercise, we actually, after our conversations last week, created a new form. And Liz is going to share that in the chat. But there's basically 4 questions we want you to share with your group. So first, share what are your top 3 core values? And second, what's the reason you chose those 3? Third, how do you know you're living into those values each day? And 4, what stops you from living them each day? Because as you are able to share this, you'll start that ownership of the values that we encourage you to do, and you'll be able to hear from other people in your breakout groups what theirs are. So you can kind of start to see how, how people, what's important to people and how values play into their life. So Ken has placed those in the chat. I think this will be a very awesome discussion. And remember, we ask for each of you to go into your group to choose somebody to be the facilitator or somebody volunteer to be able to come back and report on whatever you do in those breakout groups, because I personally love hearing everybody's core values and what insights they're getting. So that's what we're going to do. Any questions before Ken breaks us out? Awesome. And if for whatever reason you weren't here with us last week and haven't been able to hear the replays, just listen to what the people say. You may already have done a core values exercise, and if you have, please share whatever that is for you. If not, just listen and learn from everybody else, and based off that, you may get some clues as to what your values are. And with that, Ken, I think we're ready to move people into breakout groups.
Okay. All right. So if everybody, to the extent everybody feels comfortable, please have your cameras on just so it helps me see everybody. And let's go ahead and Gina, do you want to lead us through the next section with doing some of the, getting some of the sharing that came out of the group?
Yeah. So as we've done in the past, if you were the one who was brave enough to be the leader and volunteer to be the facilitator, can you raise your hand? Because we want you to share. And don't be shy. Okay, Lane, welcome.
Yeah, this is my first time on the
That's
Royal
what I
Life
thought.
series,
Welcome.
yeah, thanks for the invite. I enjoyed it. So yeah, I did take notes for a group. I was on with Robert and Danita, and we walked through some of the goals. For Danita and I, it was our first time. So, but from a core value perspective, Robert had already gone through it and had his well-defined. His are health, wealth, and family. And his thinking really was along the health side of things. If you don't have that, it's very difficult to make progress in any other realm. And so it's sort of the key foundational step. And then family was really his why for what he's doing. And then from a wealth perspective, he sort of grabbed that one because it covers not just financial, but a lot of key areas that speak to abundance. And then, for myself, I garnered toward like love and wisdom and creativity and adventure. I have family as well. Danita's was health, family, and financial independence. And so there's a real common theme with our group, at least. I'm not sure about the others. As far as how we're living into those values, Robert's working W-2 and then getting into real estate investing, just basically every single day trying to take steps in that direction. Danita's in a similar boat, but she's approaching retirement and needs to offset her retirement account by about twice as much as where she's at right now. So she's got a journey ahead of her and she's making progress. And then I'm, kind of getting started myself.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting. So I love some of the comments. Thank you so much for doing that, Lane. And especially on your first call. Well done. So I love how you all, many of you have put in like family and health and some of those kind of things. And so I just encourage you all to pay attention to your everyday actions to see, which one are you prioritizing? Because oftentimes what happens if we have wealth as a core value, we tend to focus on wealth and all the things we have to do to achieve wealth. And then we put the other things on the back burner and then we wonder why we're stressed, right? So if we're focused so much on wealth, but health's important and we're not taking the time to do health, then you're going to find yourself feeling drained and feeling zapped, as Scott had said in some of our previous ones. So I just encourage each of you in that group to really look at your core values and make sure you're living into them, because oftentimes, because it's important, there's 3 for a reason, and it's all 3. The intention is to strive to live in those each and every day. Scott, is there anything else you want to add to that?
Not right now. I think when we get into it, you guys are going to see that like this process becomes super exact and hyper focused. So it is too, like almost an annoying degree of precision as we go through it. But so but that's really great awareness. And I think everything first starts with the awareness.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Like, let's keep tagging like those good awareness pieces, what things are working well, what things aren't working well. That's our first steps always.
And I know Connie's ready to share. So Connie, please share on behalf of your group. That'd be great.
Okay, so in my group, I had myself, Julie, and then John joined us. So again, some of those same resonating themes. Julie said that her top value was love, including meaning not just living for yourself, but also doing things for others. But of course, that does include self-love, love of community, the earth. And this translates to bringing passion into everything she does. She and I both had health as our biggest asset, including physical and mental health. How she lives this out is she is very self-disciplined and she watches what she puts into her mouth. And for me, I'm very careful about what I put into my mind, right? If it doesn't support her, she doesn't even put it into her mouth, which I'm really admire that. And third value, growth. And her comments on that, or what I heard was, she either grows or falls behind. And from the fishes practice, she wants to, really lean into those values like intellectual and, learning, growing. Those are very important to her. And the reason she chose those these are like her goals or her North Stars. She likes to keep in her mind into those values every day. How do we know that we're living into these values? So she does regular and constant self-checks, and this is something that I also practice as well. I let peace be the umpire in my heart. If I feel peace about it, then I know it's in line with my values. If I don't, then I either reject it or think about it for a while. I mean, obviously, sometimes we need to do things that are zappers, and so therefore we might not feel peace about it. But overall, do we feel peaceful about the direction of our lives, that our behaviors have integrity with our goals? Because that, for me, is what gives me peace. And nothing stops Julie from living each day. But she mentioned, and I heard from her, getting sufficient rest gives energy so that she can live out her goals, and nothing can stop her. John mentioned his top 3 values as being faith, relationships, also health. He mentioned he has sacrificed that in the past. He also mentioned his integrity is very important to him, that his integrity affects absolutely everyone who he interacts with on a daily basis. And he knows he's living into those values. He's by the practice of journaling. So I hope I summarized that well. I'll leave it open for Julie or John if they want to jump in or chime in.
Ooh, I think I'm starting to pick up on a couple of themes here.
Yeah, exactly.
Just from like the last 2 that come into, like I see like there's a theme, a common theme, a challenge around like our health. And it seems like there's a belief system running maybe about how we're sacrificing our health for other things that we are thinking are things that we need, like out here. But it sounds like when we're sitting here in a common space with our peers, that's what comes up for us as I'm actually not living here in this area of my life where I want to be living. What always comes to my mind when I think about that topic, Gina, I'd love to hear what themes that like you're hearing here, but when I always think about that topic, what always seems to perplex me about myself is how can I already know all of the right things I need to be doing about my health? I already have all the information into it. So why am I not doing the thing that I know is the most painful for me, like the thing that's causing me the most pain? Why am I not taking the actions that I know I need to be taking there? Even though it hits me on that kind of level. When I come into these groups, I talk about the same things. I'll raise my hand and be like, that's a theme for me too. Health. Where am I at? I'm 36. I'm looking to start a family soon. Holy smokes, I'm not going to be the old dad that ain't doing stuff with 2 rickety knees, just crotching around. Absolutely not. I was like, okay, I need to be thinking about my health. So what am I doing about that? And it's a challenge for me too. So I'd love to hear that this group shares a common challenge, because that excites me. So I was like, great, that's something that we might be able to work on together. But Gina, what comes up for you as a theme?
So for me, I think it's really cool that love and family, that came up because I think we also, these are some of the things that come up that are one of those, that are those things that people, and not to be morbid, but those are the things that people wish they'd done. It's like the regret list when you're on your deathbed, right? I wish I had been spent more time with my family, or done a better job with my health, or, you know, done a better job loving myself, some of those kind of things. So I think it's beautiful. Like, I think these values, what it says to me is these values are the things that we really desire to live into. But John said it, we all have excuses. So the question is, what are the excuses, and why do we have those excuses? If these things are really important to us, what are we letting take away to not meet those things? And we're going to get into that as the weeks unfold, because that's really being aware of, okay, what's stopping you? And there's lots of things that can stop us from doing it, trust me. But Scott, you're right, we all know what we need to do, and it's not, I think it's also like, we hear all this general stuff. The question is, how do we individualize it? And that's what this is all about.
Awesome. Is there any other group sharing?
I think that's good. We better move on. Oh, Charlie's going to do it, but we better move on, because I know you got juicy content.
Yeah, we got a lot.
Let Charlie share real quick. Charlie, go ahead. We don't want to leave anybody out.
Okay, no, this is really good stuff. What I wanted to say was, Leah and I were talking in our group, and I shared with her that she wanted me to share. She wanted me to share my own direction because she thought it would be simpler. There's three core values I have: faith, wisdom, and grace. And all of the things that were on the list, all of them are really important to me. But the reason why I said faith was because I believe in pushing through it, and it's where everything centralizes from. And the wisdom comes from understanding my years in being in business and having to work through grace and understanding in my early years. I was not real graceful. And so, so to speak, or gracious, right? As my wife puts it. And what was important was, learning that through my years being in business and going through the fires to gain that wisdom. And so, all of that, my core behind that was living a purpose-filled life. And so, thinking about health and all those things and what you guys are talking about, I mean, that's spot on to everything that I did in my entire life, in maintaining a balance of good nutrition and working out and playing sports and taking care of family and building a business and working 24/7, to live that kind of a life. And really what it came down to was simplifying as I got older to what matters most. And so when we talked about, working through those things, living those things daily, and what would stop me or what has stopped me in the past is, I call it the purpose of man. And the reason why I say that is when busy things occur, not productive things or purpose-filled things. And so those are the only things that have stopped me. And that can be anything from things that are happening in the family with our children that just pop up, or, something medically that pops up with a family member that we're having to take care of. But by and large, basically it just comes down to, was it something that for me, it was like purpose-filled or not.
Awesome, Charlie.
So,
I want to focus into it too, buddy, because we need to go into the next section. But thank you so much for the share. I want to let you know exactly what you're talking about right now, which is what I hear you saying is, yeah, sure, there's the things that I want. Then there's everything that happens to me in life. And when life hits me, this other stuff, we'll see if it happens.
Exactly.
Who else feels that way? I got high intentions of the things that I want of when it happens, but life happens in a certain way, and then those things may happen or not. That happened to it. Anybody else ever done that? If that's not an awareness for you yet, I guarantee you over the next 2 weeks, you're going to become so aware of that. You will be shocked about how amazing you are as an individual, and also how little you can really do when it comes into it. But I mean that, and it's going to be in the best possible way. And this kind of awareness has come in. So let's go ahead and jump into some of the content, guys. Who's got their books? Anybody got their books here with them? If you got your books, put your books in front of the camera here so we can all see the books. Everybody's got beautiful books. Fantastic. Awesome, guys. Well, for you guys that, for everybody that doesn't have their book, there's a digital copy that Liz or Ken will share in the chat. So that way you can follow along while you're working on being able to get your book. And what I'd like to go ahead and start with you guys here is a practice that what we're going to do is we're going to today over this next 25 minutes, we are going to blitz our way through something that could be a 3 to 6 hour to a multi-day activity for you, right? But what I want to do is expose you to the full gamut of it. So that way you can get and a snapshot. Okay, cool. I get it. I get what we're doing with this practice of it. And then we'll have more time in the future to be able to go over that, as well as some additional support opportunities inside of the Discord channel to have some more discussion about this while we're offline. So Ken just dropped that into the chat for the PDF version if you don't have it. If you do have yours, turn to page 191 of your book. You'll see that it looks like this on page 191. You'll see that on the left-hand side, it'll say Visions for Your Life. You'll see that it'll talk about the fishes that are there. Go ahead and open that up. Take a look at that. And as everybody's getting that up, I'm going to go ahead and turn on my, let's see here. Cool. So here's what I'd like to do, guys. Let's just start off here with on 191, you'll see starting at the top there on 191, it'll say financial. When you go to 192, you'll see at the top of the page, it'll say intellectual. 193 will say social. 194 is health. 195 is emotional. And 196 is spiritual. So you'll see there that actually corresponds to our fishes exercise that we did before, right? Everybody remember that piece of it? Of looking at the fishes. Now we're going to get a little bit more detailed about what do we mean in the fishes. So here we're going to talk about more specifically what is in the financial. What are you having? What are you being? And what are you doing? So having, when we think about having is like stuff, right? When I look at like if I was like talking about my social, I'd say, hey, 5 years from now, what I want to have an awesome wake surf boat. Because I want to go hang out with my friends on the wake surf boat. I want to go wake surfing. That's something I want to have. Who do I want to be in my social life? I want to be a connector of the highest and best people I can find in the world. And how can I get those people together to all come hang out with me and talk about cool ideas and how we can bring about things into the world that help people and do it in a way that hasn't been done before. And then what are we doing? Well, we're doing activities together, like our fun adventure activities with like-minded people that are outside, and we're hiking, and maybe we're getting onto boats together, and we're going Can-Am rides through the desert, and we're doing fun stuff together to be able to have fun and adventure as part of like the social life that we're having. So like you can see, guys, how it stratifies out. You think about like what things I would have 5 years from now for like my financial, what are the things I would be 5 years from now, and what are things I'd be doing. So like if we did this for a financial one, which is where we'll start here today, is financially 5 years from now, what do you have? What does that look like for you? What's that 5-year goal that says, hey, if everything goes right 5 years from now, where would this be? Now, I want to remind you that there is no way you or any of us are smart enough to know what 5 years from now is going to be. That's not the point. The point is that you can know what your life is going to look like in a year. Pretty okay. You'll have that pretty well dialed in. None of us will know what our life looks like back in 5 years. How can I prove this to you? Think back 5 years ago. Ask yourself, would the person that I was 5 years ago be able to predict what my life is like now? Answer to that's probably relatively no. They wouldn't be able to describe that in detail. That's insane. There's no way they could do that. So when we're saying, hey, look at it 5 years from now into the future, what we're getting at is what is the intention? What is the exciting piece that you would hope that your life would look like 5 years from now? It's not so big like, hey, 5 years from now, I'm going to be a billionaire into it. Maybe, maybe. But maybe 5 years from now, it's like, what's that stretch goal of 5 years? It's bigger than I can imagine for me to doing right now. Just like the person 5 years ago couldn't imagine what my life is today, right? But it's bigger than what I can accomplish in a year. And what we do with this, and we say, well, what am I having? Well, I'm having, for a lot of us here, that might be like, hey, I'm having complete financial freedom. I have enough passive income from my investments that I'm able to be completely out of the financial game at that point. How am I being? I'm being a mentor to other people about how they could achieve the same things for them, if that's true for you. And that's in my financial life, is I'm now making money off of being able to help accelerate other people's paths to financial freedom, or growing their businesses, or having the life that they want. And that could be your being and the financialness that you're looking for. And then what are the things that you're doing in that place? Well, maybe in the first years, what you're doing here is just focused around causes that make you the most money. But maybe in your financial life, you find that like the doing I'm doing there is I'm putting money behind causes that I care about. Or I'm putting money behind the things that are the most rewarding for me in life. So I invite you to take a few minutes here, and Ken's going to kick on some soft music for us to just kind of like get us into the zone of going through this just with the financial piece of us, and just spending a few minutes here thinking about what will you be having, what will you being, what we'd be doing in those categories, just for the financial aspect of this to kick off, and then we'll just do some quick round of sharing about what that is going to be. Any questions about this exercise before we dive into it solo?
What is the cost?
So we're going to get to costs as stage 2 of the exercise. So don't worry about costs right now. We're just looking at what are those key pieces. Leah, did you have any questions? You were making a face that either you had a question or that you smelled something really bad. I wasn't sure. Got into it. You know that face you get where you're like, I don't. Okay, cool. So you're good to go.
No, not at all.
Okay.
I worked on this little last night, actually.
Oh, perfect. All right. Look at you go getter, being way ahead of the curve.
I like good look.
Excellent. Cool. So let's just take a couple of minutes and we'll just go through this. Ken, if you could just kick on some soft music for us to help us get in the flow. Try to get in touch, guys, with what you're listing here and seeing what resonates with your core values. And like, are the things that you're listing here inside of your core values? All right, guys. So let's go ahead and do some quick sharing on what we have so far. So who has some stuff that they've written down for having? Who wants to share what they have for having? Connie, would you mind sharing with us what you have for having?
Yeah, sure. I'm the expressive type, so I always have something to say, right? Whether it's valuable or not, I leave that up to my audience. Okay, so for having, I actually worked on this last week too. I put having that passive income in order to support my retirement. I'm actually one of those rare people that actually love my W-2 job. Oh my God, I love working at my company, but I do want to have that passive income to be able to have the ability to stop working. And I'm very keen on learning more about short-term rentals, e.g. having an Airbnb rental. So this is maybe a being rather than having, but I want to have excitement about my life in retirement. And what I want to have peace, right? So I want to have peace because I have my financial house in order, because I have my asset protection plan in place. So for me, having peace, or maybe being peaceful, is very important. Thank you.
And so awesome, Connie. Thank you for that share. So now we'll look at like the cost side of the equation here, right? So last week when we talked about like where our values were, one of the things that Gina invited us to think about was, well, what is the energy that goes behind the creation of what it is in our life that's in that value? And we talked about, well, what is the new energy that I'm blessed with each day to be able to drive into creation of more things that are in line with that value? And then also, what's the stored energy that I have? We called money, right? To be able to push into that thing, to be able to accelerate the growth of that even faster than the new energy that I'm able to push into it today. And that's where the cost column comes in, to say, what would it cost me to be able to either have that thing, to be that thing, or to do that thing? what it would be. We saw here from Connie, how much does it cost for Connie to be at peace? Well, she can't really buy peace, right? Peace is an elusive thing that happens because something else is happening, right? But the thing that she did say that there could be a cost to is, I really want to be in financial freedom. It's like, great, 5-year goal, financial freedom. What are the costs of that? Big question mark, right? It's going to probably take some money and also some time about being able to develop whatever is the underlying things that Connie needs to develop on her pathway to financial freedom. But now Connie knows in 5 years from now, that's where I'm headed. It's really clear to me where I'm going. So now when we go into the future parts of this exercise, breaking it down into smaller chunks, we'll now start to see where the rubber hits the road, so to speak, coming into it. Okay. So thank you for that, Connie. Just into the terms of being able to move everybody through, did you have a follow-up, Connie?
Yeah, just very quickly. I always ask myself, what is the cost of not doing this?
Yeah.
Right? So that's a question that always gets me motivated. Thank you.
Beautiful. Always a beautiful question to ask, right? What's the cost of me not taking action here? Especially if that's the thing that's like, I don't want to do it, you know? Getting up out of bed and actually hitting the gym or getting that first workout in, right? What's the cost of my not doing this today? Cost of me not doing this today could be that I don't do it tomorrow and I don't do it again for 3 months from now.
Exactly.
Pretty big cost if I'm aware of the costs that I'm doing. But also maybe the health that I want doesn't cost any money, right? Maybe it's actually just another decision that I have to make. It would be really interesting for us, I think, as you go through the financial, the emotional, the social, is to look at what are the things that you want, be cognizant of what are the actual costs of me to be able to go through that thing, and see how many of them actually cost stuff. Sometimes we put whatever it is, the thing that we want on the other side of life on around not having time or money, when either both of those might not be true. Because you might see inside of your costs that actually I could make other decisions. And that would fulfill me there, that it's not actually a lack of money that keeps me from being able to have the full life experience that I'm looking to have. There's actually other ways for Connie to feel at peace about her finances, otherwise from being financially free. There's also ways that some of us could get to total financial freedom and never be at peace. And I think we've known people in our lives that are like that as well too. So I also invite you to think there might be different layers to the game here that's going on with us as we set our goals and what's going on inside of us. But let's refocus real quick on some of just the tactical pieces here. So we would have your 5-year vision. And what I invite you to do is in your free time to go through your 5-year visions and fill that out for each one of your fishes, each one of these pages, in between this section and this section and the next session. As we'll be following up as part of our breakout groups, is like, hey, cool, how is this going to be working? What did we learn last week in doing the exercises and doing the homework, so to speak? Great. So let's go ahead and turn to page 4 of our journal. That's the very beginning, and start to this quarter, and actually turn to page 3. Page 3 is where you'll start to see this sheet with this is your SMART goals. If you guys have ever worked in a corporate job ever, I know you know of SMART goals. It's the one thing that they seem to like, it fits into a nice little box for training. But SMART goals are things that are it just stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. It says the goals that we would set for ourselves, we want them to fit into those categories, because that's when they're specific enough for us to actually be able to take action on them and to measure our relative level of success to that. So I'd invite you to read through what those SMART goals mean, what it means to have a specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound goal. And then start to look at what we have here on page 4, where you start to have, you can see I'm working through my journal as well here too, where you have your quarterly and monthly goals. So just focusing on your quarterly and monthly goals, you will have taken your 5-year vision of the piece that we just did, and then ask yourself, what can I accomplish over the course of a quarter. And that for that piece of my life. So looking at what we did with the finances on the financial piece with mapping out those areas for us. Now on page 4, pick 1 to 2 quarterly goals that you'd have to say, great, if that's where I'm headed in 5 years, what's the step that I want to hold myself accountable for achieving in this quarter? Doesn't have to be perfect because we don't know necessarily the way the ship is going to ride in the ocean. We just know that there's a lighthouse over there that I have to go towards. The wind's going to blow me left and right, and I'm going to tack the ship back and forth, but I know where I'm headed. That's what the 5 years give us. The 5 years is the lighthouse. We're the ship. Life is the ocean. So the question that comes is, what's our first waypoint? That's our quarterly goal. That's where we need to start heading towards first. We know it's in line of where we need to go. Wind's going to blow us back and forth, but let's get to that next point. So Connie, if we can pick on you for a little bit today and use you as our designated spokesperson as we walk through this here together as a group, I hope that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Can you share with us what you have there for the quarterly goals?
Yeah, sure. So, I have quite a list for my 5-year plan, and then, the whole thing about being an effective executor is to distill your dreams into what are you going to do on Monday, right? So that's this whole program that you're walking us through, and I really appreciate the structure. It's really great to have the structure. So my quarterly plans are, first of all, I'm going to further flesh out my retirement plan. How much do I have in Social Security? I haven't looked. We've been in Singapore for 10 years. What's happened right there? Working on my financial analysis of, both of my investments in, the stock market, and also extrapolate my real estate investment portfolio, right?
So let's just stop right there, Connie, because we have plenty to work with just in that one segment.
Okay.
Let's just take the first one. The first one was what? It's like reanalyzing what's going on with my retirement, right?
That's right.
Okay. So is the goal as you have it written, like stated as such, analyzing what happens with my retirement? Is that a quarterly goal?
Yeah, so my quarterly goal is to, I would call it start my retirement plan. And I wouldn't really say start because I've already started years ago, right? It's to check in with the status, do a new status, and then start to do the projections. I'm a financial controller. We do projections all the time.
Okay, I want to pause you there for a second. So now you've taken the concept of checking on my retirement plan as a goal.
Mm-hmm.
That goal, as if it existed in a vacuum, doesn't meet the SMART criteria, right?
That's right.
We would say it doesn't. But the next thing that I heard you say starts to get us into SMART.
That's right.
It's like, hey, I'm going to have at the end of this week, I'm going to have a written analysis on X or whatever the thing is to be. Yeah.
That's right.
So over the course of like the quarter that we have here, what do you think would be like the SMART goal as it would relate towards your retirement planning?
Okay. So I always want to make it time bound, right? So by March 31st, I will have a written plan with the status of each one of my investment streams. I will know what the current status is, and I will have projections for the future.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
So we have a written plan, trying to decide something that's in writing. We know that it's relevant to what it is that you're trying to achieve with your financial freedom. Do you feel like that's attainable for you with the resources that you currently have?
Absolutely. I'm a financial controller. We do this all the time.
There you go. So I have the expertise inside of my own noggin of like, how do I need to do this? I got it time bound that it's happening to the end of the quarter. And it seems to, and it's probably a little loose in the way we're talking about it now, but with your financial expertise, it sounds like you would say, no, I can get down in the details to the level that I know that I need to get down there with it. And so to me, that meets a SMART goal criteria.
Exactly. And I always add, I try to make smarter goals. So I always add 2 things. Is it exciting or emotional, right? So why do I want to do this? I have to have my compelling why. And then is it also like relevant? Because if I we just moved here after 10 years in Singapore. It might not be relevant if I had a new baby or I was starting a new job. I might not be able to do this, right? But I don't have those constraints. So for me, this is totally relevant. And especially, this is why I appreciate joining this group, because it's really a springboard for me. So thank you, Scott and Gina and the Royal team.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what's all here is this a community. It's one Royal Life community. It's all of us together standing for each other to help encourage each other like down this path. So the next steps, guys, would be for Connie here. She would have number 1 here, which would be like her quarterly goal. That might be the only quarterly goal that Connie sets for this quarter, depending upon what the scope of all the other things, like Charlie was saying, what are all the other things that happen to me in life? Well, maybe if there's only just one thing that I can accomplish this quarter, like Connie might decide that this is the one thing that I can accomplish this quarter into it that's really going to move my life forward, and the most critical area for me, which is around my key focus, which is going to be around finance, me being Connie in this scenario, right? And I know that it energizes me because it's so aligned with the values that I have around what's important to me there. That's how I can know where the energy is at. And when I think about the planning, sure, it sounds like work and hard work, but I know that I get a sense of peace or a sense of excitement from having and thinking about that project and the importance of that project is going to be for my life. So what Connie would do next, and what I invite you all to do then, is to take whatever your 1 to 5 quarterly goals are, and then make that into what are the 1 to 5 monthly goals that you need to set that are going to line up to that quarterly goal. And then lastly, did you guys see this last part here, which is your board of directors? End of there too on that sheet. So we have the quarterly that breaks down to the monthly, right? Just like we did the 5-year to the quarterly. But then this last part here with the board of directors, this is the piece where everybody gets stuck. You know why? Because we don't know who in our life has already built the thing that we're looking to build yet. You might not know who that is, but that person is on your board of directors. So whatever it is the thing, let's say, for example, this is Connie, right? Connie's now on a mission to be able to, over the course of this quarter, get that detailed financial plan that she's looking for. She's going to set, it's like, hey, in a month, I'm actually going to have a rough outline of what that plan needs to look like into it, right? And by month 2, I'm going to have a draft. And by month 3, I'm going to have this reviewed by a third party to say, hey, does this all make sense? And some type of professional staff. Her board of directors is either somebody out in the world that's in a professional service provider to help her with that, right? That she knows, likes, and trusts. Or what I would recommend for everybody here is to join in on all of the groups. Get clarity of what your goals are here, and then join in on the group coaching that's happening and all of the other sessions through the week. And use that 10 to 15 to 20 minutes of the first of each session when you're breaking out in those breakout groups with people to start asking them, what is your superpowers? What are the stuff that you've been doing? I've been doing this thing. I have this thing about making a financial retirement plan for myself. Have you done that? Do you know anybody else that's been successful in doing that? If you do know who's been successful in doing that, can I talk to them? Can you give me an introduction? Can I meet with you after the meeting to talk with you about what your experience has been in producing that financial plan? And boom, you just recruited yourself a member of the board of directors. What's your worst case scenario in doing that? That person on the other side of the line doesn't have anything that they can help you with of your current needs, and vice versa. You guys are like, well, we don't have anything that really overlays in partnership to each other. Awesome. But you know what you do? Use your pen and your piece of paper and you make a log, like an old school Rolodex. Here's who this person is. This is what they're good at. This is what they've achieved before. And in the future, when that need pops up for you, you now have a way of pulling in your team of people, both the professional team that we have here inside RLS, but inside of the community. And so the more clear you can get on your 5-year vision, your quarterly goals into your monthly goals, the more powerful your networking will be with accessing how you can pull from the community and from others. Here's exactly who I need to have in my life, who has walked that journey, part of the journey before, done it successfully, and I can talk to them so I get to avoid all of the pitfalls and they get to accelerate my path through that part of the journey. Cool. Any questions, comments, any thinking about this? Is this all a new concept for people? Is this a different way of thinking for people that comes into it? Andrea, I was not to call you on the spot here a little bit for it too, but I was just wondering, because I was hearing like some of the engagement that you were having with that. Is this a new concept for you of thinking like through goals, people, social networking to be able to support and accelerate people's path through attainment or through creation?
I would say it's not new for me, but I've never done a great job of implementing it. So I've taken, like, I used to be in a women's networking group and we followed like the traction plan. So it's very similar there, but then that kind of got to where it was more social and more, you know, let's just talk about our personal lives and things. And so, yeah, it kind of got off track. And so, yeah, just being more intentional about it and like being more strict about it, I think would be awesome.
Cool. Yeah. So what I'm hearing from you is like, hey, this could be a really great initiative for us to pursue as a community. Really want to make sure that we keep it focused to the value that we're intending to get out of these groups, where it could be easy to say, hey, we're really familiar with each other, so let's just have a good time hanging out. And maybe it's important for us to say, hey, let's keep this as focus time. Let's use the offline time, the outside of group time for us to do socializing. Maybe having like some clear guidelines and boundaries for that would help us keep it valuable. Cool. Great, guys. So in terms of what we had on here for today, the last piece that I want to tee up for us next week, where we're going to be coming into is going to be talking about prioritization, right? So we're going to be looking at how do you prioritize, and then what does this come in terms of creating prioritization, and like that comes into your tasks and habits, and how do you make that whole system work for you in a deeper way. When we come into next week, the discussion topics we're going to have going into next week are going to be us discussing about what was our experience in using the Rich Life Planner, or the Royal Life Planner rather, using the Royal Life Planner and using it in a way that we've been able to implement as part of our homework, and having the opportunity to share with each other about, here's the successes I've had from this last week to this week with it. Here's some of the challenges that we've come up with. So we can all have that opportunity to see how that system works, as well as be able to celebrate some successes and address any issues that we have, for opportunities that we have for improvement. But yeah, so that's what that would conclude the educational component that I've written. I know we're a few minutes over for today. So Gina, what things do we need to do for wrapping up and teeing us up?
I think that we're good. I think so one thing is you're going to do this, make sure that when you're putting your goals, your SMART goals together, Scott kind of touched on this, but make sure they're aligned to your values. Because I think one of the reasons that many times we put goals out there and we don't do them is because they're not aligned to our values, or we can't see how they're going to fit in. And so then we kind of go, yeah, that sounds really good. And then we're like, yeah, that just doesn't resonate with me when you bump it up against your values. So I think that's a really great exercise to do as you're doing that. And then most importantly, just write your goals down and don't get stuck on, just do one, just get one done. Because this is about getting into the practice of doing it.
Yeah, I'd say, guys, if you want to know the recipe for success, especially in this area that we're getting into, it's thinking small, not big.
For sure.
You're thinking, what's the smallest thing that I could do here that I can hold myself accountable for to make sure that I hit it? The thing is, if it was easy for you to do, you would already have done it by now. So regardless of whatever the ego that plays off in your mind, that, hey, I think I should be able to do whatever, that should be easy, let it go. Let that ego go and just focus on, great, that's the one thing that's most important for me to have done. If you want the big challenge is always health. by making a small goal in your health of what it's going to be, and don't make it 5 or 10 pounds if you're looking for that. So if you want the big challenge is a health goal into it. Everything else is easy. Everybody says, making money's hard. I was like, yeah, try getting healthy, into it. Try and watch like what comes out of your mouth, what comes in it, and how you're moving your body. Much more difficult than grinding on sales calls, or whatever the case it would be, right? So anyway, we'll leave it for you guys for here for next week. Let's pick up the conversation here inside of the Discord channel. If you're not a part of that, go ahead and get a part of that. One thing I'd ask you guys to do as we send out the replay of the videos for everybody after group coaching, please just think about like who in your world would benefit from that kind of content that we covered here today. Think about that like throughout your day today. When you get that email, just quickly send it off to 2 or 3 people that you would say like, hey, these are 2 or 3 people that would have benefited from this type of information. Get them exposed to it. Whether they join or don't join, it doesn't matter. That's not our goal. Our goal is to be able to say, here, this is what I think is valuable. This is what's true for me inside of my heart, and I want to share it with the world into that. And if there's things in here in today's episode that are true for you on that perspective, I just ask you to share it with more people so more people can get the benefit and the blessing of the work that you've come here to create with all of us. So thank you guys so much. Look forward to seeing you here next week. Take care, everyone. I'll be in the Discord channel periodically to be able to check on that. So go ahead and get in there and let's keep this conversation going.